Okay, should be working now. Just checking the stream. Okay, it's showing the YouTube. Okay, you want to check the stream on your end as well, my guy?
Yeah, I'm checking it right now.
Okay, so an issue.
It does not say we are. Okay, wait. Yeah, it does. It says we're live.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, okay, I see it. Perfect.
Let me just adjust some of these windows. Okay, so move this up here, and then I should be able to move this into here. And this should still be showing. Oh, it's showing OBS stuff on the screen. It should not be doing that. So I'm just watching the live recording and making sure it's like making sense.
Actually showing, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, what I'm seeing on the YouTube live right now is me going through the
Yeah, I
OBS
see
settings.
you in the back end and like going through OBS and whatnot.
Yeah. Which I finished doing like a minute ago.
Hmm. Yeah, now on the stream, it's just showing still the back screen.
I'm watching the YouTube live intently while making sure that my formatting worked. But I can't tell just yet. Oh, we have a concurrent viewer. Is that you or me? I guess.
Yeah,
So.
that's me. That's
Okay.
me on my phone. Is it good now? If you were to, oh well, yeah, because I don't see the OBS anymore. I'm just seeing the main screen.
Oh, actually, same. I'm seeing my whole screen on OBS instead of just the meet.
Yeah, maybe it needs to, the function needs to be switched for the window that it's showing instead of
Yeah,
full
that's a good
screen.
call. Although it is limited to just the G meet here. Transition maybe? Aha! Did that do it? So on my OBS it looks right now. I think that did.
That did it.
Okay, so the first 5 minutes we're gonna pretty much just cut out.
Yeah, literally. Well, proper. At least we got that sorted.
Yes, I think so. Oh yeah, let's keep this. There we go. Okay, so we'll count it from 5 minutes. So we have four, three, two, one.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? And we are here with the Fireside Chat. This is your host, Nee, and I'm here with Chris. And today on our episode of the Fireside Chat, we are going to be talking about um, the topic, the Common Good Protocol, and what that actually is and why that is important.
Yeah. So the Common Good Protocol is a thesis or an idea which is not really original, to be honest. It's just a condensed and simplified version of something that people have been working on for many, many decades, and tons of people in the crypto space have been interested in. But by isolating just this one component of it, of like all these other ideas and visions, and focusing on it, I think we are going to be better able to address some serious issues in society without any potential misinformation or disinformation connections to it or attack vectors connected to it. So, what is the Common Good Protocol? Like, I wrote the summary paper on Medium just to kind of like
Mm.
you know, exclude and put these key details together. It's not perfect at all. It's just a starting point, just so we have a barometer or a stick in the sand. So
Mm.
if you don't know what a common good is, a common good is something like air or water or a public park. It's something where everybody benefits from this thing, but is therefore not something that's the responsibility of anybody because, or it's hard to have it be the responsibility of anybody. We have like governments and such who are supposed to fill this role, sometimes not for profits or charities or things like this, but we often end up with something which is contentious, but I think is true from everything I've seen, and I think most people would agree based on their day-to-day life and their experiences that we have something called the tragedy of the commons, which is when something is for the benefit of everybody, it very often is not managed properly. Because the responsibility is held by someone who's not redeeming outsized rewards or incentives, quite often it is neglected.
Mm.
So that was like coined by Jarrett Hardin in 1968, and essentially refers to the depletion or degradation of common goods due to the action of individual actors who act in their own self-interest rather than the interest of the common good. The phenomenon occurs because individuals have little incentive to preserve or maintain common goods as they do not directly bear the costs of their depletion. In the paper, which will be linked in the video description, Um, I go on to say that crypto smart contracts and blockchain technology offer a potential solution to this problem by allowing for the creation of a rule-based system that can enforce the use of common goods in a way that serves the common good. So through the use of smart contracts and decentralized governance, it is possible to create protocols that align the incentives with individual actors and the goals of the common good, while having it all immutable and enforceable, because you don't have to go to a judge and be like, hey, this person broke the law, spend a few $100,000 on some lawyers to make them actually do what they're supposed to do. No, smart contracts are automatically executed and enforced. So the reason we're talking about this on FiatRexa and in relation to FiatRexa is because this is actually uh, FiatRexa is an experiment to solve the problems of FiatRexa. So things like moving from TradFi to crypto and from crypto to TradFi, tokenizing of a fiat currency, not dealing with the counter risk or counterparty risks of a centralized entity, not dealing with algorithmic balancing, all these other things. So we can actually solve this very important problem in the crypto space that will help it go mainstream and help decentralized exchanges operate better and help trade operate better and help individuals keep more of their money and help individuals make more out of their money and help individuals avoid fraud and all these other issues. So FiatRexa is a manifestation of the common good protocol thesis in action, and it's
Mm.
essentially the lowest hanging fruit that needs to be addressed first, so that once this building block is completed, other common goods can be addressed. So that is the intent or the reason for discussing it here, and also just so you're aware of like what our biases and what our goals are and things like this. So what do I think?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead, my guy.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And essentially, it's like the angle that we're looking at it from is that, money is a common good. Like everybody needs to have access to money to be able to do certain things, whether that's just pay their regular bills, such as their shelter, their food, their water. And as we see in the current economy right now, it's becoming increasingly difficult to do a lot of these things. And the gap between those who are wealthy and those who are dirt poor is becoming wider and wider. And
100%.
so that kind of leads me into my next question. What exactly are the key characteristics of a common good protocol? And how exactly does this line up within the crypto space to give people more of an idea of like how the common good protocol is something that will influence the space for good?
I think it's a pretty good question. So, building on your point of like, uh, money kind of needs to be seen as a common good nowadays because you can't access any of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, you can't get shelter, food, water, security, anything without money at this point. It is an absolute necessity. And right now, it's like 1 in 5 Canadians are unbanked or underbanked. That's a slight hyperbole. I think it's close to like 18 point something percent on the last BOC numbers. But the point is that this number is growing and it's a problem in all developed nations. Whereas in what we would call third world countries or developing nations, the number of unbanked is super duper high, and the amount of people becoming banked or having access to participate in the economy is increasing. It's still not good. And in the West, it's getting worse. So we need to kind of nip this in the butt before it gets really bad and we have insane class systems with no class mobility. And you have, well, whether these poverty traps and these homeless traps are intentional or not, I don't think is worth discussing, but it is a phenomenon that we are observing. As soon as someone gets knocked down, like if you are a person who just goes and talks to some homeless people, and talks to people who are having a really tough time, you'll find out like a lot of these cases are situations like, for one story as an example, I met this guy I was chatting to, and his mom got cancer. Sorry, the exact series of events was like his dad died, his mom started busting ass, she got sick after overworking to keep the house and keep him in school. She got cancer, so he dropped out of school to take care of his mom. They depleted the equity value of their home, so when she died, the home was taken away and he was tossed on the streets. He no longer had an education because he dropped out of school to take care of her. He could no longer get a job because he didn't have an address to register anything to, which means he could no longer get access to a bunch of other things like a cell phone. And that's it. He's trapped. He can't get out. Uh, so we are making some innovations in society to fix some of these things, but at the end of it, if you don't have money, you can't do anything. We still have
Mm.
cash in society today, but there are very strong efforts to remove that access. Like in Canada, a lot of restaurants just no longer accept cash. If you're trying to get food, uh, you can still do that at grocery store. Grocery stores will still accept cash. But if we've already lost it at the restaurant level, it's not a stretch to think that we could lose it at the grocery store level. And well, if you're not allowed to access banking, that's it. You no longer have access to food. So
Yeah.
a significant
Yeah, we can see how that can get very dicey very quickly. It's there's this saying that I heard a long time ago. It kind of goes, money isn't everything, but the absence of it is. And that's definitely the case with a lot of people that don't have the ability to have access to certain funds. It completely restricts their ability to be able to actually participate in the overall economy. And then, as usual, people look at these people as they're useless or deadbeat and can't really provide anything. But it's not even just people who are homeless that have no access to banking. As we know, there's a lot of people, specifically in Canada, in native reserves as well, that don't have access to banking. And these are people that do have money, right? They might have a lot of cash, they might have access to certain things, but a lot of these other financial products that are out there, they won't have access to them because they're not in those places where they're being commonly offered.
100%, and it also sets up like a slippery slope to like push people into even worse situations because if you're not allowed to have mechanisms to pay your taxes or to buy food or water or shelter or do any of these things in society, you're essentially setting people up to just be at the mercy of a judicial system that is going to view them as bad actors because they don't understand that this phenomenon exists. And like, I'm not saying our institutions are evil and that they're only filled with evil people and this is all intentional. I think this is just like a series of unfortunate cause and effect circumstances that aren't getting enough attention. Like, obviously the Bank of Canada has looked into stuff. That's why I've got this data. I know these numbers. So I know that this is something of interest that good actors inside these institutions want to address, but they're having trouble doing so. And unfortunately, like, they're being sold on the idea of CBDCs to address this problem, which does the exact opposite of fixing it. It makes things much, much worse. So we need an alternative in the market, and it kind of has to be done in a way that is different. We can't solve this from the same things that made the problem in the first place. We need to actually look at this differently, and we actually have to perform an experiment, and we have to have good intentions, and we have to have transparency, and we have to have accountability, and we have to have fairness, and we have to care about sustainability. So
Mm.
that's kind of the manifestation of what FiatRexa is. It's a proof of concept on the idea of common good protocols, and it is implementing these values or these principles that common good protocols absolutely must have. And well, DAOs and crypto unlock a way of doing things that we've just never had access to before. So we can have equality and fairness in a manner that hasn't been available, and we can solve problems in a way that hasn't been possible. So effectively, I think it's important we talk about some of these values and principles, but I think we might have another question before we dive into that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the question that I wanted to ask was just like, what are the biggest challenges in creating and maintaining a common good protocol as to why like we haven't been able to get something that works very coherent to solve a lot of these issues?
Well, I think it's the same problems we're facing now to an extent, but there are also bigger problems in the past. Like, in the past, we didn't have crypto and blockchain. We didn't have computer systems that were decentralized and placed all around the world. Um, there are also huge efforts to centralize everything and place them all under thumb so that everything is fully controlled by a select few who, either through incompetence or through malice, can cause immense suffering for the vast majority of people. So I think part of it is just technology availability. Certain things were
Mhm.
not available and well known, and there just wasn't familiarity or awareness in the population, which we now have today. Um, and then another big one is like that classic issue with common goods. It's the incentive structure. So there is no incentive for someone to do this, and that can be construed in more negative lights, like, oh, like a billionaire can't make billions of dollars doing it, so they're not going to be interested in doing it. That's not actually, I think, entirely accurate or honest, because even if someone had no money and they were interested in making no money from it, that's not sustainable for them. Like,
Mhm.
people need money to survive. Like, hence the, like, full circle, right? If you were a really good person and you wanted to do this, and you were to go and dedicate a year of your life to it or 2 years of your life to it, you'd be doing that out of your own pocket without any incentive structure in place. And that's not sustainable. Like, that's just not fair. It's not viable. You need to get compensated for doing something good. Like, this is why we pay politicians in the first place. It's to incentivize them so that they can do these things. They can have that economic freedom to focus and to solve the problem. So the system design necessitates managing incentives, because if you do not manage
Mhm.
incentives, the ability of an individual to actually focus on something and to effectively execute on it is going to be substantially degraded, if not completely eliminated. So we now have, thanks to smart contracts, a way to manage the exchange of consideration in an autonomous fashion with a low cost base. You do not have to, go to a court or go through a long legal process to have a contract enforced. It is automatically enforced. It automatically
Mhm.
addresses the exchange of consideration. And with DAOs, we now have an ability to have distributed control over many different people who are changing all the time. So people who are most engaged at that moment in their life can do the most, and the people who are least engaged at a later point in their life or an earlier point in their life don't execute much control because they're not engaged. And like one of the worst things we can do is have people who have no idea what they're doing making decisions on something that they don't understand. You want people who are actively focusing on something, who are investing the time and energy into understanding it to work on it. We all do. And you want them to be incentivized positively so that they're always acting in the best interest of the majority. And if you can nail that balance, I think we have the opportunity to set up new ways of doing things that will radically unlock the potential of humanity.
Mm. Yeah, that's powerful. That's extremely powerful. Yeah, because then people are actually able to operate fully in their full creative capacity in that sense, because they don't have to therefore think about all these bills that they have to pay just to be able to survive.
I think so. I think so. Like at the end of the day, we are all material beings and we have material needs. Like you gotta eat, you gotta have shelter, you gotta have water, probably need clothing. Uh, in most cases, I
Mm.
would say, if not all cases. Um, so there are material needs that people have. So if someone is contributing to taking care of the common good, like to use an abstract analogy or a symbol, like for a public park, I don't think any of us have an issue with paying a park keeper a fair salary to go in there and to clean up and to, take tabs and collect data and to help us understand more about this park and to help it thrive. I don't think
Mm.
anyone really, well, there probably are some people, but I think the vast majority of us don't have an issue with that. Like if we were to pay him like $1 million to park a truck there and idle and do nothing, I think most of us would have an issue again. Like it is about just like reasonableness. Like if they're being paid 85 grand to go and, do a quick survey, see how different species are doing, pick up some trash, I think we'd all be like, yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for doing that.
Mm.
But again, all relative, right? Like if you're living in an environment where like your rent costs you six figures, then we'd be like, hey, you're underpaying that guy. Whereas if you live in an environment where your rent costs $5,000, then we'd be like, hmm,
You're overpaying that
yeah,
guy.
yeah. Then we come up with another
Yeah.
issue, right? So it does come
Mhm.
down to,
And it also kind of works based on contribution as well, from more or less how common good protocols work. So even in that case, it's like kind of the person's ability to gain is based on how much they're willing to put in. So it's like somebody who's willing to just survey the park every once in a while might only make, let's say, 20,000, 30,000, right? The person who's serving the park, cleaning and, checking in on the animals might make more because there's more of an attention to detail and more of a skill set in a sense that comes with that, right? So,
100%.
yeah,
100%. And there's also
yeah.
performance based, right? Like if someone bids on a bounty or wants to do a task or wants to contribute towards this common good, then they may underbid or overbid sometimes. That's going to happen. But we should see the range of this deviation from the ideal point, because the ideal point is always going to be changing too. But like the range of variance should be compressed over time as more and more people engage. And sometimes the protocol is going to be biased towards taking the person who's underquoting, and sometimes they're going to underperform. But the protocol gets a learning experience. It still gets its problem relatively solved, mostly solved, if not completely, but not perfectly. Um, and the individual gets that experience. Like the next time round, they should quote properly because they may have just put themselves into a situation where they were not making a lot of money in order to do a good job. And the protocol should not penalize that person if they actually executed well. If they execute poorly, if they find out that they've underquoted aggressively and they're getting paid, less than minimum wage or something obscene, uh, the protocol should intervene and be like, hey, your performance is bad. Your contract is terminated. You're no longer getting paid because we don't want them to be stuck in a situation where they're harming themselves. and harming the protocol and harming the common good and harming people in society. So we just mitigate it. And we can see the performance criteria. We can see like, oh, this person's not performing. Okay, let's terminate this and have like another proposal and another bidding for the bounty. And this
Mm.
time around, if someone underbids, the protocol probably should be against that. I would hope we would be against that, but it depends on what we see, right? Like maybe someone underbids and executes perfectly, and the protocol wants to encourage that behavior. But there is also a moral requirement for us to probably not push people towards that. Although, on the same note, like there are young people with no experience who would do an amazing job for much less money very happily just to have the experience, just to be allowed to contribute. Because a lot of society today prevents people from contributing and offering the value that they have to give because of prejudice that is unfounded for the most part. So I think addressing that and being aware of that is going to be important. But that all comes about through discussion. So just by having a transparent, open discussion and having a transparent, open bidding system through the bounties, then we should be able to address most of that. But it's going to be an evolving process where we're going to make mistakes and we're going to candidly, openly discuss them and we're going to fix them and we're going to get better and better and better. And hopefully we can trailblaze the first implementation of a common good protocol and provide a template and a structure that other people can use to fix all the other problems that we face.
Mm. Makes sense. Yeah, it's perfect. I guess that leads us right into our next question, which is like, what aspects of the common good protocol are we implementing within FiatRexa? And I guess where would you like to see the entire protocol move and grow?
Great question. So we're trying to implement all of it. So like our decision making processes are transparent and easily accessible. Like we have a published white paper which goes over everything in, well, not everything. We've removed some segments because it was too complicated and it was too demanding of people. So it reduced the accessibility. But over
Mm.
time, we're going to re-add in those segments as it becomes easier for people to understand them and as people boost their engagement. Um, we'll probably end up splitting the white paper into 2 or 3 segments so that we have like an easier version than what we currently have for people to digest. And then we have essentially what we currently have, and then we have a much more in-depth, fully robust version like we had originally. I think through the DAO process, we end up having participation and voting and transparency, which is important. By having forums that people can interact and discuss, we further improve that process.
Mm.
I think if we focus on having productive responses to stakeholder needs and concerns, that's a good sign, and that's something we should continue to do. So, like, if someone asks a question, we authentically and genuinely engage with it. Like, human nature is we're going to be asked questions that have already been answered. Direct them to the right resources, like don't just ignore somebody. And that's becoming easier and easier and easier as communities grow larger and larger and larger because more and more people in the community will be able to assist that person. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy or a self-feeding situation. Additionally, like just doing things like we're doing right here. So we're showing what our thinking is, we're showing what our input is, we're showing what our bias is, and we're just putting it out there. So I think this is towards that same kind of thesis.
Mm.
I think having clear and enforceable policies and procedures is important. And I think another key thing is one of our dashboard systems is around auditing. So we can have independent oversight and review where people are separated and anonymous and can do their review. And the protocol can have elements which can derive like details. So we don't have bad auditors, for instance. Um, but you also don't have situations where like right now in legal cases, I don't know if it's necessarily well known or discussed very much, but we have a issue where jurors and judges can be compromised. They can have their life or their safety of themselves or their loved ones threatened, and that can force them to act against their duty and their moral imperative and their best interest and their best judgment. So having the auditors who are reviewing things protected and private within reason is essential. Otherwise, they can be compelled by bad actors. So having an independent oversight and review process that is well structured and thought out. And again, because there are bad actors who will try and break things always, this will be something that evolves over time. And there will be hiccups, there will be problems, but we share those things transparently and we adjust around them. I don't think the common human approach of denying a problem just so that other bad actors aren't inspired to copy it is valid. Like, yes, maybe it stops the pace or the rapid growth of that problem, but it also eliminates the pace of a solution to that problem being delivered, because someone
Mhm.
somewhere could hear about that problem and go like, damn, that's a really big problem, and then work on it for a while, or maybe instantly have a solution to it. Everybody has their own experiences and perspectives on life and their own bits to contribute. So allowing people to do that is imperative, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's actually an extremely powerful point because that correlates perfectly with this principle that I actually heard from Ray Dalio in his book Principles, where he was talking about when he was building his company Bridgewater. He built the culture around people wanting to solve problems and being open to discuss problems. And people were more or less rewarded for bringing up problems because then, in that case, if everybody was able to have that type of transparency with each other, the amount of growth that they could find from solving the problems as quickly as possible, as opposed to just burying it under the ground like an ostrich and just putting your head down. Like, you got so much more done and you were able to innovate so much quicker than anyone else. And that's what helped them stay cutting edge before so many other firms. Yeah, that's powerful. That's very, very powerful.
Yeah, Ray Dalio's a smart guy, so I think he would be someone who would hopefully appreciate what we're doing here and would probably like. That's the other thing, by doing a common good protocol, you can have these highly capable, efficient people contribute a little nugget of knowledge, and they would get rewarded for doing so, and the total community and the total world would get a huge benefit from them doing so. So through this incentive alignment process, we should hopefully see more of these people engage with solving these problems because they can. But also, you have on the opposite end of that spectrum, like someone with no experience and who's just trying to figure it out, also being given the opportunity to contribute and to provide value because it's a structured pathway to doing so. And another one of our dashboard functions is education. So if someone just simply says like, hey, I want to help make the world a better place, hey, I want to help build value, they can just do so. They can get access to the resourcing and the tooling that they need to do so as well. So there is no unfair
Mhm.
requirement basis, which I think is also very important for us to fix some of the serious problems that we're facing in society.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Giving people the access and ability to more or less create your own dollar
Agreed.
through your stored energy or your blood, sweat, and tears in whatever form and fashion. Yeah, that's extremely powerful. So yeah, I guess on that note, so we're looking at being able to kind of encompass all the forms and size of the common good protocol and make sure that we're able, well, our grand vision is making sure that we can fill all of those things. And how do you feel like the common good protocol overall is going to influence and shape governance in the future?
I think it will change the way we look at doing things because right now we work through entity based structures and we almost do so to the detriment of the individual entity because like I'm an entity, you are an entity, like we as individuals are entities as well, but we're talking about like other legal structured entities like corporations and charities and not-for-profits and trusts and all these other things, and governments, and because these are all formats of entity construction in legally recognized formats. We have some of the early beginnings of DAOs being recognized as entities. And I think in some ways that's good and in some ways that's bad, because DAOs are very different from what we've seen in the past. And I think common good protocols are once again going to be a derivative from DAOs that are going to be different as well. But if we don't start doing things and solving problems and experimenting, we're never going to discover the most powerful potential solutions that move us more towards a utopic outcome or a positive outcome than a dystopic or negative outcome. So I think for FiatRexa, first and foremost, it is an experiment, and it's something where by just doing this activity, we as a species can extract a lot of data and a lot of lessons and a lot of insights that will help guide and inform us in the future. Like, hopefully we're successful. That is obviously the goal. However, even if we're not, there is a tremendous amount of benefit that can come out of it.
Mhm. Yeah, even just from a data standpoint of just the understanding of everything and how, yeah, just basically more or less, it's like a grand research project that can go extremely well and end up having amazing results both on the financial side of things and then also on the overall crypto space, because we are solving a lot of problems there that do need to be solved for sure, for sure.
Yeah, and worst case, we just choose to not use the protocol. If for whatever reason there are fundamental issues or errors in this protocol, we just don't use it. And we can take those lessons and we can build again and we can try again and we can improve and we can do better. But if we don't try and we don't give it an honest effort, we won't know and we will not build towards a better potential future. So I think the risk base is exceedingly low, and I think the reward is substantially high. So it makes sense to try.
Mm, yeah, makes sense. 1,000%. Because that's exactly why we're on this mission, and the more that we find people who have this same type of mindset and see the value in the common good protocol, we'll be able to bring in more people to be contributors that would be able to bring in whatever sort of value they want to bring in, whether that's more knowledge, whether that's they have marketing talents or sales skills, or they have developing skills, or even if they don't have the skills yet they're growing into those positions, right? Like this is something that allows everybody to come in and contribute no matter what level that they currently sit at.
100%. Yeah. In fact, like, I know a lot of people are probably a little uneasy about AI or the state of the economy or the state of the world, and like feeling trapped or hopeless or unsure of things. But this gives them a path and a tool or a vehicle to actually regain some agency while also helping other people by giving them agency and giving them tooling that is better than what's available in the market right now, while also helping to provide and arm good actors throughout institutions with tooling that allows them to prevent us from going down a very dark path. So that is, I think, all good stuff. And the economics within these kinds, within like FiatRexa particularly, are really good too, because we're able to trim down costs in a way that's relatively unprecedented by intelligent design. And I think that makes a really big difference at the end of the day. So hopefully
Mm,
we see a lot more people choose to engage with FiatRexa, even if only as like a side hustle, an experiment. Hey, I'm going to spend a few hours a week learning how to do X through this mechanism because it makes it more tangible and real, and they're going to actually learn more effectively. Because like there's three core formats of learning. You have like audible, so like talking about it. You have visual, so seeing it, and you have kinetic, which is actually like enacting in doing it. If you have a vehicle to actually implement things that you're learning, you're going to have more retention. So if you cover all of these bases for learning types, you're going to have a higher base of retention. You're going to have a more productive and efficient educational process. So people who are looking to learn and grow and develop skills, which I would hope would be most people, but I do not know if that's actually true at all, should be highly inclined towards engaging with this protocol and contributing to it and building. And, maybe it all works out really, really well. And then you could be like, yeah, it would be like the equivalent of saying, like, yeah, I helped build Bitcoin. That would be a cool thing to do. I don't know if it would be as grand as that, but it could be. It's not impossible. And if we really can pioneer and trailblaze some very powerful, helpful tools for, the sons and daughters of humanity, I think that is good.
1,000%. I agree. It'll definitely help make a big change, especially even just on a base standpoint, just from like an ideological standpoint, because like the more we bring attention to common good protocols, the more this idea will become more of a reality for people in and of itself, whether that comes through FiatRexa or other people take the idea and they want to run with it themselves as well. Right. So
100%. And I think like that, the more people we can get to engage and help and build, the more people who will find out that this idea exists. The more people who find out that this idea exists, the more who should hopefully contribute and help build. And
mhm.
the more brains we can have on the problem, the more likely it is that we come to the most optimal solution that is possible. The danger really is if we can't get anyone to care. And I think we're in a society where a lot of people are kind of giving up in some ways. And that is sad and scary. So hopefully we can re-engage some people and get some people to dare to have hope and dare to try and dare to learn and dare to grow and dare to build. And if we can succeed in that one endeavor, even if nothing else works, it is worthwhile.
1,000%. 1,000%. I agree. And that is exactly how we're going to end up making the biggest impact we can make in this space. That's all we can hope for.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. So yeah, I think we've gone over like a lot of the nuts and bolts of, or at least actually maybe not all the nuts and bolts, but like we've gone over some of the meat of the common good protocol thesis. But
Mm.
what I would encourage people to do is like read the paper, critique it. There's tons of things to critique. It's not a great paper. it's okay. It puts some of the stuff into one point that we can uh, discuss and we can break down and we can reconstruct. So we can at least have some better focus on this issue. Same as like the FiatRexa white paper. Like I'm not saying that's perfect.
1,000%. 1,000%. And yeah, guys, that paper is going to be right in the description box. So you guys can be able to tap in with that and leave any comments that you guys have. Ask us any questions. If you find the protocol interesting or you have any, arguments that you want to bring up with the paper, any things that you'd like to add, let us know. And we definitely love to discuss that with you guys and share more of our thoughts.
100%. Yeah. Even if you don't like it, if you see issues, like please participate and become a contributor. Like contribute. Let's make it better. Let's start fixing these serious problems because even if we don't do a great job, we're still going to actually really outperform what's in the market today. So we don't have to be perfect. We just have to be better.
Mm.
And it makes everybody's life a little bit better because everybody has to touch money. Everybody has to deal with fiat. Governments are not going to get rid of fiat anytime soon. If we can just solve this one problem right now, we can stave off some really bad outcomes and we can improve everybody's lives, even if just incrementally. That's a very big deal because there's billions of us. And we can learn more about the common good protocol thesis and we can refine that and then we can refine FiatRexa and then that can enable other common good protocols. And it's just a very positive flywheel effect if we can get more people going towards this direction. Additionally, it's like jobs kind of suck. Like this is a way to make a living without having a job, without having a boss, without having someone micromanaging you and telling you when you can go and have lunch and when you have to wake up and when you have to go to bed and all these kinds of things. So it provides a way for you to provide for yourself and your loved ones without the normal pathway. And it's like you get all the benefits of entrepreneurship with none of the downsides because when the system's running, there is capital flowing, there is income for the people who are contributing. You don't have to worry about going years with negative money and negative time to get something out. You can contribute and get something out immediately. That's kind of nice. Like I would have preferred this to the entrepreneurial pathway when I was younger. It would have been much better. So hopefully, the younger people out there, that makes sense. And to the older people out there, that makes sense as well. But I think a big focus is really just getting people to interact with the ideas genuinely and authentically, um, and to share their biases. I think that is important and powerful.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll have that happening definitely through more discussion and people just reading through our different papers from the medium as well as the white paper and just, yeah, having more conversation. And definitely, guys, if you guys want to participate in an overall conversation about FiatRexa, we will be leaving our Discord link as well in the description box, so you guys can hop in there. Our channel is still growing, and we're looking for more people to just come in, share your thoughts, share your ideas. Let's all bring it together and make it live and exciting.
I agree. Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, we can get to a point where like I should not matter at all, at in any way, shape, form, or manner, and we can get to a point where we have like 100 or 1,000 contributors, and I can go and build other things. That would be nice. But I'm going to stay here pushing this until it gets to the point that this community can do its thing and this experiment works out to a point where I am not necessary at all, which even on the current structuring is pretty much there. But we lack the contributors. We lack the people who care. We need to get more people who care. We've got more and more people. More and more people are waking up to it. More and more people are engaging. We just need to accelerate this process.
1,000%. 1,000%. But yeah, guys, that was everything that we had in terms of the Common Good Protocol. And next week, we're going to be back to be sharing with you guys another interesting topic. We're still going through a couple things of what it'll be, so it'll be a little surprise for you guys. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, other than that, this is everything that we got for you guys. So we are going to be signing out. This is Nee, this is Chris in the Fireside Chat. Everyone, take it easy.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you, guys.
Peace.
Now I get to
Awesome.
click stop streaming.
Yeah.